And just when I think it's time, it's time. Welcome, everyone, to the Wednesday night live show. Just Tim and me today. No Phillip, no Paul, no Allison. Everybody should be back, hopefully soon here. A lot of stuff going on. Allison with her son graduating. Phil's got some personal stuff to deal with. And Paul is out fishing. No,
he's always out. He's always out fishing. He's always he's out catching and releasing. No, I think he catches and he eats.
Yeah,
I want to say that.
I picture him not even cooking it, like old school it. He just bites into the fish like our ancestors did.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sure he puts fire to his fish. I'm sure he does. But you never know. Those people, indigenous. Did I say
indigenous?
That indigenous people in Australia. That's how they eat the fish. They don't even cook it. They just.
Yeah, really. Yeah. No, they. I don't know. Did they eat it raw? I know that it's like a coming of age kind of thing. Like like if you're like a greenhorn. Like, did you ever watch Deadliest Catch or one of those? Didn't they do this thing where like when they were on the boat, like the first haul for the greenhorn, they made him like, eat the fish raw. Like, oh God, I'm sorry. Just throw my ass overboard.
You kill your first deer, you have to take a bite out of the heart.
No thanks. I never had the stomach for the shooting of the deer, but I definitely have the stomach for the eating of the deer.
The eating part's simple. It's seeing that deer's cute little eyes and antlers in your scope.
Yeah, I don't know, and not to run off on too many tangents, but I always had an issue with I could tell a longer story, which I won't, but I hated those hunting shows on those like those sports channels and stuff where it's like they're either bow hunting or muzzleloader hunting. Yeah, I'm like I don't want to watch this. Let me just turn on like some crime show where like actual people are getting killed. I don't want to see all that other stuff.
No, it's hard watching that stuff,
Yeah,
it's tough. We don't want to piss any more people off on the Australian continent and hunters out there, so we'll stop talking about this.
Exactly.
We already pissed off a whole continent. No, it's pretty boring out there, guys. Not a lot going on out there. I think both sides needed a break. I don't know how much of a break we're getting. There's always something going on in the background, Tim, in this industry, and especially in politics. There's always something going on in the back door. But yeah, I mean, not a lot of stuff out there in the news wise as far as the PMTAs. I think that process is all coming to a head here. Some governors vetoing it, some governors passing it. So it's been a weird beginning to the month of May. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just strange. I mean, even Vaping 360. I mean, I went on there. I go over there a lot to see what's in the news headline, and I haven't seen much in there. And then I have a couple other sources that I go to, and not much there too. So maybe everybody's going on vacation, Tim.
I don't know. I feel like government has these kind of waves. They're active on something, and then they kind of fall away from something, and then I feel like sometimes they intentionally get quiet to try to lose your interest, like catch us sleeping. Like we're working on shit in the background. Something's coming. Let's just get quiet, and maybe they'll think the storm is past. But I think when it gets quiet like this, that's the time to stay vigilant. But then on the other hand, too, I think they kind of tried to pass the buck, right? So, I mean, we've got the PMTA process that's still ongoing. And, we've got, people that were issued stays. We have people that are still going through the process. You got all these different phases and stages of stuff.
Yeah.
and I just feel like they tried to pass the buck with these PMTA registry bills, and I felt like they thought that that would keep people busy enough, and preoccupied otherwise at the local level, at their
Yeah.
state level, trying to fight
Yeah.
all these bills, that it could get some of the heat off of their back. Maybe they could, take a look at things. I mean, last week we did the article on Brian King and his fine system and all
Yeah.
these things that he wanted to do. So I don't feel like the FDA is necessarily resting. I just feel like
Oh yeah. No.
they've
Yeah.
tried to get us to back off for a little bit and take maybe some of the primary focus off of them, because they caught a lot of heat,
Yeah.
with the Uval
Yeah.
report and all that good stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting to me how government works, but I think the time to fear them the most is probably not when they're vocal, but when they're not talking.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I think they thought, well, I think we thought if we can spread them out and thin them out, but they've shown us that that's what they're doing to us. They spread it out. They spread it to local, some states, some city councils. They really spread us thin, and I think they realize that we are a strong group, but not a lot of people scattered around to fight these bills and be available to fight these bills, which is sad but I think they knew what they were doing by spreading it out. I think it was perfect strategy to throw those PMTAs out there from state to state to state to state, because there was just no way CASA could keep up with it. There's no way that some of these lawyers can keep up with it. And yeah, I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And I think they've gotten a lot of wins. I haven't, not that I keep track of wins and losses, but I think they have accumulated a few big wins in that PMTA registry bills in most of the states. And I think some of the states that we were kind of surprised that weren't going to have an issue that had issues. So it's weird. I mean, I don't think Allie thought she was going to have that big of an issue in her state. I think she assumed that was going to just kind of fly through there. I'm not assuming that she assumed, but I don't think she was realizing that it was going to be a little bit more of a fight than they thought they were going to have. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I was really hoping that Allie could be on the show tonight, because I kind of wanted to really grill her and just sort of see what that whole experience was like, and everything that her and her team and everybody that was involved in that experienced. The things they heard, the things they saw, the things they learned. Do they have a strategy for moving forward? I think she effectively basically told us that more or less, the bill was dead, which is good news. But I mean, should we rest on those laurels either? I mean, just because bills die doesn't mean that they can't come back in the next session or something like that. So that's what I'm saying is, I mean, it's almost like the fight doesn't end until there's some concession of some kind. And I'm not saying we get our way 100% of the way, because that's probably unlikely in the short term, maybe over time. But, until there's some concession to the point where effectively we can relax a little bit, as long as we're not, we don't have idiots putting vitamin E acetate in and street carts anymore. So,
yeah. Well, Timmy, you want to tell us how your week is going?
I shall.
I shall.
I shall. It's been a rather crazy week, to say the least. Obviously with my regular daily goings on, the ones that keep me gainfully employed, those things are okay. That's just business as usual, as they say. But I've just had a lot going on with the local community and the local neighborhood. So, with kids graduating, today was the official last day of school. So, I remember those days. God, you couldn't wait. But I found out here in Georgia, it's rather strange. So not only do they get out before June, which we never got out before June. We were always out by like June 5th. Or, the first week of June, we were done. But they get out just before. So today, 5/22, they have to be back in school by the end of August. So they only really get like 2 months off to enjoy their summer. So it's short and sweet. But for the HOA people like myself, I'm actually like applauding that. I'm like, okay, school system, way to go. Get those youngins back in the class as soon as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And then my life at the pool might be a little bit little bit more relaxed. But yes, we opened the pool today. It was a bit chaotic. We changed over to a fob gate system instead of a key coded gate system. So
That was smart.
that's been a bit of that's a nice upgrade for the community. Maybe a little bit better on the security side of things. But we spent 2 hours at the pool last night handing out the fobs to everybody.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting exercise. And then, of course, it was the 11th hour scramble to get the pool guy to come in and vacuum the pool and get it all looking pretty this morning before all these people who are all down at the pool right now are enjoying it. So, and then I had to put the banner up for the kids graduating this year. So that's been a task in and of itself. So you know what they say, John? They say when in doubt, duct it. That's what they say. That's
yeah, all the time. I hear that all the time.
That's the old euphemism that if I ever have anything to teach you, words of wisdom, when in doubt, duck it. So right. So I put the banner up. It's a 4x8, I believe. It's a pretty massive banner. And in the process, I pulled one of the eyelets out of the banner by accident. It kind of like ripped out of the banner. So I have been spending the last day and a half up at the top of the neighborhood using Gorilla duct tape to try to get me back onto schedule and have that banner hanging up normal again. So
hey man, they use that shit to hold fenders in NASCAR. So shit is good, baby.
Well, it failed on me twice already, but I think I figured out why. I think I realized what I had done. Basically, because it was ripped so bad, I put the duct tape all over it, and then I poked a hole where the banner was ripped. So as it started to pull, it could exit the banner out of the existing hole, and it just pulled all the tape and everything right off the banner. So I think this long-haired hippie, resourceful ex-pot smoking logic kicked in.
Gummy bear.
Well, I prefer the edibles and the disposables now. Yeah, I don't know. Just the other thing, I lost interest in the natural, should I call it that?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so I think that old school resourcefulness, because when you learn how to use like a toilet paper roll or a Coke can or an apple to do all that other stuff, John, you are MacGyver personified.
Oh hell yeah, dude! I've done some amazing stuff with that stuff. I've done amazing stuff with that stuff. It's holding parts of my house together right now. I promise you.
Yes, Becky. I actually have eyelets in the tool here to redo it. But you know what? I just said F it at this point. I just don't have the wherewithal to go put a new eyelet and press
the easy way, Tim. Fuck no. The easy way.
You layer a bunch of duct tape, you poke a hole in it with a screwdriver, and you relocate the hole in the thickest part where they double sew it, weave it. I think I might have repaired it. So we'll see.
Congratulations to all those kids graduating. It's nice. I'm glad that things have gotten back to normal with graduations. I did feel sorry for those few classes that didn't get the chance to walk down that aisle and hear their name being said and being handed a diploma. And let's be honest, I mean, you put 4 years of your life into that, and you got most kids, I'm going to assume even the kids that bitched about going to high school looked forward to hearing their name being called, walking down that aisle, getting handed a diploma, and having all your friends and family and everyone else clapping and celebrating. So, that must have been tough. And I think it was a couple years, right, Tim? I think there was 2 years of it. So
they had oddball graduations where the kids had like parades and stuff in cars and probably online and Zoom and all this other stuff. So I think it's a really cool thing that the kids are actually getting a chance to really experience it. We can't talk about some of the colleges. That's a whole other subject. Apparently some of those got canceled. So unfortunately for them, those are people that waited 2 years for their graduation as well. I mean, think about it. I mean, we could talk about whether or not college qualifications find you jobs later. That, that's debatable. I've been hearing that since I was a kid, though. That people go to school, they get a
Go to
degree in
college.
something that they want to pursue, and then they end up not being able to find jobs in those specialties. But that's another topic. I'm just saying, I feel bad for those college kids that work really hard for 4 years. Had to pay an arm, a leg, their first child, and probably sell illegal vapes out of the back of a truck to pay for college, and now they don't even get to have their enjoy graduation.
It is sad. My week has been very boring. Work, and that's about it. I did mow the lawn because the neighbors were giving me a dirty look again, so I pulled out the lawnmower and did it. Happy you guys. I have a persimmons tree. You know what a persimmons are, Timmy?
I am familiar with them on site.
It looks like orange. It's an orange thing. Some of them, one variant is almost like an apple where you can bite it and eat it like an apple. The other one you have to set aside in a dark place and let it soften, and then you can eat it that way. Persimmon. You ever had like persimmon cookies?
No. I've never eaten one. I have to tell you, I worked in produce for the grocery stores for many years, so I saw lots of weird stuff that I probably like jicama. Like the first time, I'm like, what the hell is a jicama? And then I finally, like decades later, I finally ate it. It doesn't taste like much of anything. It was used like on a veggie platter. Daikon. I've never eaten a daikon. And then you go to an Asian restaurant and you realize that they use it. So persimmons were on the stand. I just never ate one.
Yeah, it's in the front of my house, and it's right next to my mailbox. And the problem is they have bloomed, and now the actual persimmon is starting to show up on the branch. Well, these are very heavy, so the branches are like this. They just come falling down. So even if the branch was 8 feet in the air, right now it's probably right around 3 feet. So, because it's got those things on it. So my mailman has just been driving me nuts. She keeps yelling at me to cut it because it's right by the mailbox. And I go, I can't cut it any more than there's nothing left on this tree. It's just the weight of those persimmons on the branches pulling them down. So I cut some more off of it. I don't eat them. My mom used to make cookies out of them, persimmon cookies. I don't know if anybody's ever had one, but I'm done having this battle with my mailman. Mail woman, actually. I took it back. Mail woman.
Janine said she wore her sister's dress to her grad ceremony, and she didn't tell me how tight it was across the ankles. I could barely. You were doing like the little shuffle step. You said it, So what you're saying, Janine, is that video is really, 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 really long. You're just waving for like 5 minutes to get across the thing.
Oh man, Timmy, you know what time it is?
I do.
All right,
I do. Hold on 1 second. Let me get in HOA board member mode here. Hold on 1 second. It's got quiet, John. Turn it up just a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I don't want it to overpower you. Yeah.
How's everybody doing on this last day of high school in the southeast quadrant of the United States? We're cranking out all your smooth jams for all you lovers out there. Because what else would you be doing, right?
Yeah, making love.
Making love. And hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition. Like those sound effects, I don't have any high dollar equipment, John. Just this $99 Rode microphone that's been holding me down. Let's say hi to all these wonderful people. Welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live show. It's just John and me. We're going to rename the show next week. It's just going to be the Wednesday Night Live show, just John and me. That's going to be the new title of the show. It's a mouthful, but I'm sure all of you can handle that. Less is more is less. I don't know what's right, what's so wrong. Let's see who's in here. We got our resident pirate right out of the gate, firing shots out of the cannon. James R is in the house. Good to see you, Mr. James. How are you, brother? Great to see you always. We got the wonderful Mallory Gates. That's spelled Mallory. Mallory.
I did hit that. I was half asleep.
Okay,
I was half asleep.
This will be John's excuse moving forward for the rest of his life, or I should say, as long as he has this job. I was half asleep. I was half asleep. Yeah, if the tree falls on his house, it'll just be I was half asleep.
It better not.
He'll be sleeping with the tree in his bed because he's so tired. He didn't even get him out of bed yet.
I'm having a fight with insurance companies right now.
we got Birdman in the house. Great to see you, Mr. Birdman. How are you? I caught a little bit of your all show the other day. Saw our wonderful, elusive Paul Blamire. Who I don't get to see very often. So I was actually really excited to see his face. Just know he's doing well and he's alive. So it's good to see both of you guys. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rifleman. Wait, sorry. I got to roll my R's. Don't let me get out of practice here, John. Rifleman in the house. All right. Now I feel redeemed. I feel better.
And you were talking about Birdman, so you have to go back and say thank you, Birdman.
Oh, that's right. Well, we're talking about Birdman. Now I'm on to Rifleman. I'm sorry.
You made a mistake.
John is contagious. I was half asleep. I was getting the names all screwed up.
I'll let you use it.
Well, okay. So I did transition.
You are 2 hours ahead.
Rather clunky from there, right? So it's good to see you, Rifleman. Great to see you, brother. How are you? And we got the wonderful Steve Tottenham in the house. How are you, fam? Good to see you, Steve. Great to have you here. We got Jay Phillips in the house. Yes. Yep. See, we're still on the scene. We're not quite the old school guys. I don't know. John and I try to be funny. We try to be like Ian and Pineapple. But we do our best. We're old men. What do you want from us? The only thing we're good at anymore is mowing grass and telling dad jokes.
Hey, that's it. Tim, we are our generation of Cheech and Chong.
We are.
Get us high and see what happens to the show. Get us high and see what happens.
Hold on, I can't. Can you hear that? Is that like a knock?
Yeah, that's it. That's close.
Who is it? It's Dave, man. I got the stuff. It's Dave. Dave's not here. Dave's not here. I don't know. That was a great skit. That and the knife skit. Class.
Yeah. Can I see your driver's license? Isn't it in the back of the car?
Put down that knife. All right. Yes. Okay. Now you know how old we are because we're straight out of Cheech and Chong days. Yeah. Well, all right. We got Eileen Ball and Bell.
Yeah.
There's an E. I don't know. Sorry. Hold on. These readers are a little crooked. Eileen Bell.
Just blame John.
Exactly. See, look at John and I. We got our goggles on so we can see what's going on. They don't work. They don't work that well all the time. Peggy at E6 Source. Great to see you, dear. How are you? Welcome to the show. We got Janine Tight Dress Timmons in the house. Great to see you, Janine. Always wonderful to see you. Who else? We got Becky Leopard hanging in the shadows. Yes, Becky Leopard right now has got a roll of duct tape, and she's just duct taping everything to the floor right now.
It may be us.
You never know. Well, you never know. There might be an earthquake. There might be, a tornado comes through. You just duct that crap to the floor, man. Like leave it where it is. Who else we got in here? I'm scrolling. Keep them doggies scrolling. I think that's it for right now.
That's it.
I think that's it for right now. We got 19 on the show, so chime in, talk with us. John and I are gonna pull rabbits out of our butts tonight
with duct tape.
Yeah, exactly.
Becky, send us. We need more rolls of duct tape. Please send them to Modesto, California. Oh, you got to send some to Georgia too. Send some to Georgia so Tim can use it. Where do you want to go, Tim? Where do you want to go, Timmy? Where do you want to go, Timmy?
Well,
I'll let you go.
Well, I mean, I hold on. I mean, I did pull a couple articles up that we can talk about the FDA. I don't know. I feel like they're not talking, so maybe we should talk about them. So we have a couple op-ed pieces that are happening on the waiver wire or on the news wire right here. So we could talk a little bit about that. I think it's all the same, and I think what it would be prudent is maybe at some point in the show we can take a visit on over to CASA and see
Yeah.
what calls of action are going on. I know that there's some other stuff happening besides the PMTA registry bills, and there's probably some new stuff that's out there that people need to be aware of. So any chance we can share information with
Yeah.
everybody, we're willing to do that.
Yeah.
So we can start with some news and advocacy, John. We
Yeah.
can start that out and just kind of see where we're at. So let me share. Let me present.
2 words. She thought she never.
No, well, look, I'm not the best with nicknames, but it's kind of fun, just to kind of come up with, what's the word I'm looking for? Terms of endearment for
Right.
everyone that watches the show, because I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll say it till the end of time. This show is really nothing without you guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
John and I are masters at talking to each other and just running our mouths about absolute bullshit 99% of the time. So we could probably survive on a 2-hour show, just me and him talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, it's all about you guys, because you are our fellow advocates, you are our
Yeah.
fellow vapors. Everyone here, and I don't want to use this term in a politically correct and universe, but we're awake. I don't
Yeah.
want to say woke, but I would say
Yeah.
we're awake.
We're
We know
awake.
the truth. And I think
Yeah.
that this
Yeah.
is what the show is all about, right? It's
Yeah.
about perpetuating the truth and keeping the messaging going and being there as a support system for each other, because this is really about community. And as a community, we're stronger in general terms anyway. Whether you live in Australia, whether you live in Boise, Idaho, whether you live in the up in the North Pole and you're hanging with Santa, just vaping away,
Santa.
making toys. As a community, we're stronger, we're better, and it's about that collective voice
Yeah.
that really sort of personifies everything that we are. So we're a family,
Yeah.
and we stick together. So right, and we know that, Becky. We know you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
vape, but
Yeah.
the
You
difference,
see the
Becky,
bigger picture.
right? You see the bigger picture. You understand what it's primarily about overall anyway. It's about people who have had suffered a horrific habit of smoking for decades that was leading to nothing but detriment, and we found this safer alternative that's helped us see the light, and we try to help other people and keep the messaging going. And we're under fire right now, and we have to stay strong. So really, the show is nothing without you guys. So really, they're all terms of endearment for me. So if you get a nickname, it's because we
Yeah.
love you. All
We
right.
love you.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we love you. So let's talk about recent reports. Let's talk about some recent reports from
What could
Mr. Martin Cullip. Recent reports reflecting how the FDA props up the cigarette trade. You think?
Mm,
You think they prop up ciggies?
just a little bit.
They don't seem to want to talk ad hominem at length about the dangers of smoking
Mhm.
any more, quite less than they would rather jump on our backs and read us the riot act about how might as well be the new zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah. The
The
black sheep.
blueberry toting donut smelling flat
Blueberry.
flat bill cap zombie apocalypse. That's us. Yep. The bots. The
You
bots
need the
trying to.
flat cap to keep stuff up there, just in case. You had that flap hats to be flat. You can keep your groceries, your
I
burrito in
you know
there.
Look, I'm not a style guy.
Style guy.
I'm not. But I never could do the flat bill. I
Me
always
either.
had to, always had to curl it.
Yeah.
I always had to sit there for like days and bend it
Just
down.
keep bending it. Keep bending it. Put the rubber
Ne-
band around it.
Yep. Never did the fish hook though. Never did the fish hook.
No, yeah, no.
All right.
That's
Well, good thing I probably don't have a subscription to this, but two subscription-only reports have recently highlighted how the Food and Drug Administration is effectively propping up smoking in the United States. I think that this is the one thing that does not equate in this whole entire fight. If they were, I mean, now granted, I get it that there's probably not a whole lot that they could do about
Yeah.
well, they could do something about cigarettes,
Yeah.
but it's just that they're somewhat protected, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of like the praying mantis, right? It's like, the praying mantis out there. Yeah, exactly. And the rumor was you couldn't kill one, or you'd get in a lot of
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is, like, I just don't see. I feel like the non-effort with regard to smoking is because it's effectively a protected product, but they are propping it up. The fact that they are aggressively trying to take away the safer alternative,
Yeah.
that just speaks volumes in and of itself.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, it just you would think it would make perfect sense that people that are not in the circle and that are not in the know, you would assume that these people would be smart enough to say, what the hell's really going on here? Why is there such a push to stop this product? And I need to dig in a little more and look into this. Is this because it's going to benefit local governments and benefit big tobacco if they're gone? I mean, do a little research. There's got to be a reason that not only they got some of the biggest anti-vaping groups out there fighting us. You got congressmen, you got city councilmen, you got mayors, you got governors, you got the president, you got the vice president, you got all these people, the FDA, the DOJ, all this against us. Somebody's got to go, hey man, what's fucking really going on with this product? Is this really killing people? Is this really not helping people? Is this really causing do a little digging, man.
Yeah.
Be
I mean,
investigative.
call me crazy, and I certainly do my damnedest not to fall down the conspiracy wormhole.
Yeah.
I think I think there are times when you can look at particular thought processes on particular subject matter, and then you can, if you have any ability to kind of, well, the dogs know it
The
too.
dogs are
So,
angry,
yeah, the
man.
dogs know it too. I think if you have any ability to be a bit of a critical thinker and just sort of read between the lines, there are certain things where you're like, that just sounds like that's just, you guys are going way off the deep end with that. That just sounds a little farcical and made up.
Yeah.
But I think if we can look at recent history, it's been going on for eons. But if we look at, the general political environment, like say over the last 10 years, and the things that we've seen, within the last 5, I would say that I think we've become more acute at recognizing smoke screens.
Yeah.
And so I think we've become a little bit more judgmental when we're all sitting here. We've all, and a vast majority of us have all been vaping for well over a decade. Okay. And I don't want to get the thought process twisted here, because we've been smoking for 2-3 decades, some of us, right?
Yeah.
And in theory, nothing bad really happened to us in those 3 decades. I mean, it wasn't good, but it wasn't, we didn't deteriorate. We weren't, we realized that we were not as healthy as we probably should be. But my point is that we've got people who've been vaping well over 10 years, and we realized the changes that it's made in our own health, how we feel overall. Our doctors have seen dramatic improvements in our health. The stuff that we see on the news, the gotcha headlines and the attention grabbers, the double lung transplants and the black urine or whatever is going on, none of that has happened to us. Okay, what's probably the worst thing that we've all experienced, John, in our decade-long vaping journey? Name the one thing that we probably suffered from when it comes to vaping.
Trying to find it.
But it's something you've already experienced, John. It's something I've experienced. It's something everyone in this group has experienced. And I'm not trying to be, it's not a trick question. I'm not trying to be like, don't take a negative and turn it into a positive. But what's the one thing that I think all of us can probably raise our hand and go, this is probably the worst thing that's happened to me since I started vaping?
I don't know.
You almost had it there, John. You made a sound.
Look, the cough?
No.
I don't know what sound is that supposed to be?
I think the worst thing that's probably happened to everybody here on the show and us is vapor's tongue.
Oh, vapor's tongue.
All right, so
Yeah,
all
I
right.
don't consider that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, but if
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
one
yeah.
thing, okay, sorry, a really shitty dry hit.
There you
Maybe
go.
that's the worst thing.
There you
Maybe,
go.
yeah, maybe that's the worst thing that's happened. Okay, right. Well, Rifleman, yes. I mean, there's the business aspect of it.
Yeah,
I'm trying
yeah,
to talk to it from like
yeah,
a health perspective. Like, none of us were short-winded trying to get to the second floor or climb some stairs at the mall. We're able to go outside and last longer. Some of us are probably out
yeah,
on the basketball court again. Some of us are chasing kids around again.
yeah,
Some of us are out walking the dog again, doing things that we struggled to do
yeah,
because of that horrific habit. So that's what I'm saying. It goes back to
yeah,
my point, is that for over 10 years, we've all found sort
yeah.
of a light at the end of the tunnel. So we know that this it helps. And then you can judge us for whether or not we want to continue forward with that for 10 years or 15 years or however long we choose to maintain vaping. Let some people be judgmental there, but really nothing bad has really happened.
Nah, nah. Yeah,
So
like I
why
said,
protect
uh,
cigarettes when you know what the potential outcomes are there?
you still light one, and you still light another, and you still light another one, and you still light another one. Before you know it, you smoke 20 a day.
Yep, and you've got some serious medical issues
Yeah.
that'll crop up later on,
Yeah.
potentially. But at
Well,
any rate,
that's the hard thing. Now I'm going to agree with some people that have talked about this, because I think that what makes the science part of it very difficult for vaping. And then the reason being is there are a lot of us that are in our 50s and 60s that have been smoking for 2-3 generations, or 2-3 decades. So, we're 20, 30-year smokers. Of course, there is some buildup in our lungs and in our bodies, with our teeth, with our tongues, with our gums, with every part of your body you can imagine has been through something the last 30 years to smoking. Vaping isn't going to magically make all that stuff go away. So when you still do, say you're still vaping for 5 years, and now all of a sudden you end up in a hospital with the pneumonia or some sort of chest problem, guess what gets blamed? The vaping gets blamed, not the 30 years of smoking. And I think that's what makes it really difficult for science to come up with some sort of test to see what is really going on with the body when it comes to vaping. And is it beneficial? Is it not beneficial? When you have 30 fucking years of, dude, two, 3 packs a day,
mhm,
it's tough. I
yeah.
mean, that's not just, they say, oh, after whatever the first 48 hours, your lungs are cleared out. But buddy, you got 30 years of smoking. Those lungs ain't gonna just get better in 48 hours.
No, but I'd be willing to bet though, if a doctor could do some before and after kind of stuff. I
Yeah,
mean, they
yeah,
can measure your breathing. They can look at your blood. They can look
yeah,
at the conditional situations that you were in as a result of smoking, and how that deteriorated your health over
yeah,
time.
mhm,
Now, I mean, compare that to say somebody who quit cold turkey
yeah,
and had some reversal and improvements, in their overall health profile. But I
mhm,
think that you don't have to be a rocket scientist if you can compare apples to oranges and go,
yeah,
well, here's where your health was when you were smoking. Here's
yeah,
where your health is now that you're vaping.
yeah.
I think you could draw a clear line of distinction, and say that a doctor could say, well, by all accounts, whatever it is you're doing is not making things worse.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's possible, but I think you're not. I hate saying it, but you're not. You're only avoiding the inevitable. I mean, you have smoked for 30 fucking years.
Yeah.
You are going to end up with something. I'm sorry. That's the bottom line. Whether you continued cold turkey or you quit by vaping, you still set your future. Your future is already laid out. I mean, you have 30 years at 2 packs a day. You better goddamn believe it. Maybe in your 60s and 70s, you're going to run into something that's going to come back to haunt you. And that's my point. I think with science blaming it on vaping is just a way of tricking the general public and saying, hey, yeah, this caused this, instead of saying, yeah, this is Bob. Bob smoked for 30 fucking years. He smoked 2 packs a day. He's been vaping for the last 6 years. So they don't tell you anything about his prior history. So it's just, oh, he's been vaping for the last 6 years. So he's dying from cancer in his lungs. That's what I'm saying. That's the ploy, the trick that's going on. And they never mention his prior history, that he was a 3-day pack a day smoker for 30 years, dude.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, that a lot of those things could stay resident in your system and not rear their ugly head until a much later point in time. So, I mean, but I think you're right in the sense that you have to take all that into consideration when you look at the current status and say, well, you know, we can't specifically say that was caused by vaping.
Yeah.
But for certain, you know, it is something that is potentially linked to the habit you had for all those years. And that definitely needs to be a criteria and all that. Less fires from vaping. There's been a few idiot battery explosions. You know, people don't know what they're doing, shoving batteries in their pockets, making contact, not storing things right, maybe not following instructions and charging older mods via the wall, and maybe having some venting going on. But I have not read any news headlines, Becky, where a guy fell asleep with a vape in his hand and burned down his whole house. I haven't heard any of those. So, and as far as secondhand from vaping, there's been studies that have been done that have proven that, you know, the exhale of a vapor is not, you know, there's the exhaust is not the same as smoking, with, you know, thousands of chemicals and carbon monoxide being ejected from that person and then lingering in the air and sticking to everything in the house and exposing everybody. Vape tends to, once it comes out, there's very little to any exhaust that's toxic. And even if there is some residues or anything that's left over from that, a lot of that falls right to the ground or dissipates very quickly. So now, in all fairness, I don't recommend that you blow vapor into some non-vapor's face. I don't recommend that you blow vapor into your dog's face, because, you know, you think that somehow magically it's completely harmless. But I think the risk is significly, if not non-existent, when it comes to secondhand vaping.
And it's considered smoking too. So if you're in the car with your kids and you're vaping, you're going to get a fine. So,
well, right. And so, but to me, that's another fair point, though. Do you know what I mean? Like we can know all the information we want to know, but to an outside person observing that, who might have a bit of a different perception of exactly what they don't understand or don't know. I don't see anything. Do I think that there should be a law that you can't, you know, vape in the car with your kid and all that other stuff? I mean, that's debatable. I think there's a lot of debatable subjects when you talk about vaping in general terms. But do I think a responsible person should do that? Probably not. No, I don't think it, you know, I don't think you should do that just out of respect for other people.
You shouldn't be. I'm sorry, you shouldn't be vaping in the car with your kids. I'm sorry. Whether you believe it's safe or not, I'm sorry. It's just doesn't, for me. I didn't smoke in the car with the kids. I didn't smoke in my house. I didn't smoke in my wife's car when the kids were in there, because I didn't want my kids sitting in there in my vehicle smelling that all day on road trips. And I mean, in vaping, it's a little different. We know it's a little safer, but still it's looked upon as like, well, look at that parent. What a bad parent. And I get it. You shouldn't give a shit what anybody thinks, but it's still, I mean, your kids, it's your kids. I mean, if you can't wait 15, 20 minutes or do what I did. I would break up my road trip in chunks for my smoke breaks. So I leave Modesto, I get to Chowchilla. That's an hour and a half drive. I would pull over, go into McDonald's, have my smoke, get back in the car, go from Chilla to Bakersfield, pull over, have my cigarette, just on road trips to Disneyland. Tim.
Yeah, well, I think it's consensus, right? So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
even if you get in the car with your friends,
yeah,
and your friends are pretty chill and cool with you, if you ask them if it's okay to vape in the car if you crack the
yeah,
window, most of them are like, yeah, bro,
yeah,
it's all
yeah,
good. You do whatever you
yeah,
want to do. It doesn't bother me. Vaping doesn't bother me.
yeah.
But when you're talking about people who can't really speak for themselves or people who might be a
Exactly.
little intimidated by what it is that you're doing, I think out of common courtesy and general respect for human beings, you just wouldn't do that
Yeah,
out of ignorance, like, oh, don't worry about it. It's not going to
yeah,
hurt you.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I see the dog walking down the street without a leash. The guy tells me he ain't going to bite my face off. Should I trust that? I don't know. So, put your dog back on a leash and
Yeah,
keep that monster over there.
yeah.
My dogs aren't as threatening, but people do get nervous. I don't know. Why do people get
Uh,
nervous about
because
doctors?
they got those little tiny sharp teeth. I've been bitten by those
I,
dogs.
I don't know. I mean, like I just mine act like complete terror trains on the other side of the fence. But once you
Yeah,
get on the other side of that fence, it's a whole other story. Then you just
yeah,
get licked to death. Anyway,
yeah,
let's carry on. Don brought up this. You know what? This is the same. This is the hot coffee in the lap
yeah,
kind of thing, right? And they're going to shut this guy up, and they're probably going to pay him off. They've got a fund somewhere where
yeah,
they've tucked a bunch of money away that they've
yeah,
written into their budget and said, this is hush money. So this guy is going to get, for being an idiot and not understanding batteries,
yeah,
he's going to get paid
yeah.
because of what
Ridiculous.
happened to him. Right. So he'll get some money out of it. They'll keep him quiet just to,
Yeah,
kind of quell the situation. But I'm with you, Don. It blows my mind that people can be so like the lady that put Gorilla Glue in her hair a couple
yeah.
years ago. It's like how do you do that and then just play the dummy? Like what do you think was going to happen?
Oh
What do you
man.
think was going to happen? Anyway, the agency has failed to authorize enough safer nicotine alternatives to comprehensively undermine the combustible tobacco market, a situation that ensures cigarette sales remain hugely profitable. Well, that's kind of what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
Goldman Sachs Nicotine Nuggets report, and they come up with these quippy, cute little names for
yeah,
their reports. Goldman Sachs Nicotine Nuggets report, published on April 22nd, offers a fascinating glimpse into the tobacco industry through the eyes of retailers. Intended to inform investors, the report should provide public health authorities with valuable insights too, meaning also. It paints a clear picture of cigarette sales declining. Dollar sales of regulated cigarettes fell 5.1% in the year ending April 6th. Many consumers are turning to cheaper alternatives. And I do think that, people are kind of, coming to a realization. I think people are starting to
yeah,
understand that whatever it is you choose to do to put cigarettes down, whether it's cold turkey, NRTs, whatever that choice is, I think it's just overall, I think
yeah,
people are becoming, I wouldn't say overly health conscious, but I think that people are realizing that cigarettes, just aren't the way.
yeah. And I think the government's not realizing that they need to find another source of money to come in to replace what's not coming in any longer. And I think that's where you're getting the scare tactics. I think that's where you're getting our fight and our push to get rid of this product, to keep tobacco out there, because state of California, $9 billion. I mean, what could they possibly do if they were just 50% of that is gone? How would they make up that 50%? And they don't know, and that's the
Well, aren't
problem.
you already in debt?
Yeah, we're been in debt. Yeah,
So
yeah,
what's 9 billion going to do? Well, it'll get you closer to not out of debt, or
yeah,
no, it'll get you closer to being in
yeah.
debt, but not as bad in debt, right?
It's 4 years ago. He announced that we got $7 billion, and this was funnier than hell because it was on TV, and he knew it after it came out of his mouth. But he announced that he got $7 billion from the Modesto, from tobacco and what? Oh God,
The MSA, the Master Settlement Agreement.
Yeah, the MSA, and then the very next day comes on and says that the state of California is $9 billion in debt. And we're like, well, you just announced you had 7 billion, isn't that so? Shouldn't we only be like 2 billion in the hole?
Yeah.
No.
But we all know that
Yeah,
money doesn't go to what it's intended for anyway. It's paying off bonds that they already drew, and it's going towards other programs because they need the money to do it. So, I mean, I don't think that you have to be clairvoyant to understand why they would ultimately prefer that cigarettes stay one of the more preferred products on the market, and why we're under such scrutiny, because it's one of the choices that's available to people. There's a shitload of people that are vaping, and a lot of people that have found their way away from cigarettes by virtue of vaping, and so it's crushing sales. So, you know, everybody knows this, right? It's not some secret. We understand why cigarettes are sort of exalted, so to speak. I did read that, and
I'm gonna grab my drink.
Yeah, go for it. It paints a clear picture of cigarette sales declining, dollar sales. I read this too. Dollar sales. I'll read it again and again and again. No, it paints a clear picture of cigarette sales declining. Dollar sales of regulated cigarettes fell 5.1% in the year ending April 6th. Many consumers are turning to cheaper alternatives. The authors remain cautious on the short-term outlook for the industry. They write, given continued economic pressures on the tobacco consumer, with many growing increasingly selective in their purchases, turning to more affordable alternatives such as the fourth-tier deep discount cigarettes, modern or oral tobacco, and illicit gray market disposable vapor products. But that's relevant too, right? So we could talk about that a little bit, right? Because I mean, we are now living in an environment that is wrought with inflation coming out of COVID. Food prices have gone up, gas prices have gone up, your utilities have gone up, all these things, and we could try to be responsible adults and go, well, if I got to save money and I got to cut back, where am I going to cut back? Okay, well, maybe it's not going out to eat nearly as much as you would. Maybe it's buying more generic products at the store as opposed to the top shelf products. So you're buying the Kroger brand ketchup, but you're not buying the Heinz ketchup because of the cost difference in the two. There's all these particular things. But when it comes to tobacco and those particular elements of life that people use to either relieve stress or maintain a habit of some kind, because it's just become an element of the vernacular, people are always going to look for a cheaper alternative to that thing. You walk in the store and they're going to tell you, hey, it's $12.50 for a pack of cigarettes, but you can get these Indian made cigarettes for $8. Or I look at these nicotine pouches, which are, I don't know how much they cost. I've never bought any, but they're a lot cheaper. People are going to try to find a way to get the satisfying thing that's a part of their life moving forward. So that's another reason why cigarette sales tail off, is because there are cheaper alternatives out there. Now, John, can we make the argument that they have not, that not a lot has been done to try to keep vaping cheap? Because remember, this whole thing started with in the long run, it's cheaper, right? Like look at what you spend on cigarettes.
That was a selling point. That was a big selling point, to be honest, is having that cheaper alternative that was working.
Right. And so, but with all these
not now
ballooning taxes that they've added to the sale of e-liquids, in several places across the United States, the safer alternative is now quickly approaching being as expensive or more expensive than the thing that people are trying to get rid of. So what does that do? That prevents people who are making conscious decisions to go to other alternatives because they're cheaper and maybe not as healthy, the nicotine pouches aside. They won't go for the vape.
To me, it's just like, whether it's cheaper or not, it's still better for you. And you've made that decision to quit smoking cigarettes. And for me, it's just like, it's a little bit more expensive, but you've made that decision to quit. go with it. Go with it, even though it is a little bit more expensive. But if you didn't have vaping and say the patches, the gums, the all the other stuff, the snuff and all that other stuff was more expensive than cigarettes, are you saying that you still wouldn't make the change? You wouldn't still buy the patches? You still wouldn't buy the gums and and the snuff and all that other stuff because it was more expensive? Usually, anything that's going to help you or benefit you and in sickness or whatever is usually going to be a very expensive pill anyway. And I
Yeah.
get it, it's not something you have to pay for only a couple weeks, but if the alternative of living a longer life is about this product that it costs more than the pack of cigarettes, fuck it, jump on board, baby. Who knows, maybe being that is more expensive, maybe that person chooses to quit vaping at a sooner rate instead of continuing to vape. You know what I'm saying? So if the cost is more expensive, they can make that decision saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to wean myself off
Mm.
and be done with all of it. But, whatever. People make their own decisions in life.
Well,
And they
right,
have
but
to,
go keep
yeah,
going.
they have to live with them. That's it. That's what I'm saying. You made your choices in life. You have to live with them. I don't. Tim doesn't. But if you're choosing to continue to smoke because it's fucking cheaper, I guess you don't really do care about your life. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if I'm
Right.
pissing people off out there, but that's how I look at it. If if
No.
if if you are making that decision that your life is not worth an extra $2, then I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
Because you can't put a price on life, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
every life is invaluable.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think you bring up a really interesting point there, right? Because you think about the psychology of it all. So like
yeah,
when we were smoking, right? We
mm,
probably heard a billion times, "Oh, that's not good for you. You shouldn't
yeah,
smoke. That's not good." Like we heard it a million times, but in general terms, we felt fine.
yeah,
Like we weren't feeling grossly ill, or we weren't experiencing anything that made us go, holy shit, they're
yeah,
right, this stuff isn't good for me. So I don't know, I think you have that dynamic about human beings where a lot of us don't necessarily want to think forward about our health in the future, going down the line. Maybe hey Kiki, good to see you. And good to see you, Don Shirako Ayako.
Scirocco.
It's Shirako. But I think, and we got microwave oven in the
Yeah,
house. Good to
microwave.
see you. Good to see you, microwave.
Mm,
No, I think from a psychology standpoint, I think as long as we're feeling okay, most
yeah,
people don't really care to go to the doctor or want to
yeah,
go to the doctor because you just don't want to get some bad news, right?
yeah,
Or you
yeah,
don't want to hear about something that they discovered or whatever. So a lot of us, as long as we're feeling okay, we don't normally think forward or ahead in
yeah,
terms of where my health will be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And then you've got that other component where it's like people are sort of like, so what? Who cares? You only live once, right?
yeah,
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I think every adult reserves that right
yeah,
to make personal choices for themselves, whether it's something that could be seen as detrimental to your health.
yeah,
But some people just DGAF, John. Don't
yeah.
give a, you
Just
know what I
don't give
mean?
a
Yeah,
fuck.
they don't give a fuck. And then you've got other people, and I think you do have people who are or conscious enough to go, you know what? I know this is a bad habit. My life is stressful. I enjoy this because it kind of helps me break the monotony of my day, the stress from
Yeah,
my coworkers, the job itself,
yeah,
life in general,
yeah,
whatever that is. And I do think that you're right, that maybe, just maybe, if people considered could look through the smoke screen and realize if they ever wanted to quit, if
yeah,
they really were serious about ever wanting to quit, whether it was because you want to spend time with your grandkids, or you don't want, you want to be healthy for your family for a considerable period of time moving forward, why not spend a couple extra bucks,
yeah,
get, like you said, use vaping as a cessation tool, because we know that it's successful in doing that, far more successful than NRTs and gum, all the gums, the patches, the hypnosis,
yep,
all that other crap. And really, who wants to be overly medicated, right? I
right,
mean, who wants more drugs in their life coming from the doctor, just so he can see you for 10 minutes, and then shove some Wellbutrin in your hand and
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
well, good luck. I think that it's well worth the, a little bit more money, to use it as a way to finally quit.
Yeah.
Like, if you could utilize it for as any one particular tool, not an ongoing thing, not something that you perpetuate for the next decade or so, but if you really
Right.
had a will to quit, why not spend it?
Yeah, spend it. I mean, these are the same people that go into the car dealership and say, "No, I want the upgraded stereo." Well, the upgraded stereo is worth more to you than the extra money that you're going to pay on your vape, dude. I mean, these are the people that drive me nuts. And it's where they go into the store and they're, "Well, I don't want that model. I want this model because that's the basic model, and I want this model because it has an extra HDMI. I'm willing to spend that extra money." And I'm like thinking to myself, these are the same people that are saying, man, I'm going to just keep smoking because it's cheaper to smoke than it is to vape. Well, you have no intention of quitting smoking then, because that's how I look at it. You have no intentions. Now, if your intentions are to quit smoking and you're going to use that bullshit line that I just can't do it because it's too expensive. No, now I know you're full of shit. So, but you would go out there and buy that other stereo. You would go and buy that other anything that was an upgrade to what everybody else has, but you won't spend an extra, maybe in the whole. Take a wild guess, Tim. How much do you think you'd end up spending extra monthly if on an e-liquid than if it were at a cheaper rate? Maybe an extra $30 a month.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Maybe.
a couple bottles anyway. But I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's also relevant in the sense too that that you have this phenomena. I mean, you could talk about people trying to find cheaper alternatives or cut, save
Yeah.
a few bucks here, save a few bucks there. But if you look at, like, say, Australia as an example, I mean, one of the ways that they wanted to get people to quit smoking would, when they realized that, pictures of blackened lungs on the package
Yeah.
and aborted fetuses and all this crazy stuff that they wanted to scare you with, to
Yeah.
say don't smoke because these things can happen to you. But the other element was to continually out tax the shit out, tax the
Yeah.
shit out of cigarettes and make them more and more expensive, because they thought, well, if we just make them so stupidly expensive, people won't buy them anymore. But you know what?
Bullshit.
People bought them anyway.
Yep.
So why should there be any difference when it comes to vaping? If
Yep.
you could have the knowledge to understand that this is one way to get you away from the thing that is extremely harmful and known to be harmful, and you could pay more than you probably wanted to pay
Yeah.
to get away from that, then why not? Why wouldn't that phenomena exist with vaping?
Exactly. I mean, even look at we've all heard the stories, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, the guys buying the stuff off a kiosk in the mall. Guys, if you haven't been listening to those stories, those devices were in the $300-400 range. They were not cheap devices, dude,
Yeah.
but yet they made that choice. A lot of people made that choice that, okay, this is going to save my life. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I think there's a responsibility that you need to make as a human being to whether or not you're worth an extra $30 a fucking month, and set a goal. I mean, if it's too expensive for yourself, set a goal up. Say, hey, I'm going to vape for 6 months and then try to wean myself off of it. You don't have to continue to vape. I don't understand that part. Everyone's like, oh, but if it brings you joy and it helps you, that's fine. But you don't have to continue vaping. If you feel like you can step away from it, man.
Yep. Yeah.
More power to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't judge, we don't scrutinize any of that
Yeah.
particular stuff. But I mean, this is a great example right here, because I think the average vapor, at least somebody who's been in this, had their skin in the game for quite some time, we've all weaned ourselves down anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I can't say much for these stinking disposables,
Yeah.
but I mean, with that said, I still have the 3 and the 6 all over the
Yeah.
place, and I remember back in the day when we were on 36, when we were on 24, 18 freebase.
Mhm.
And we were onboarding a lot more nicotine
Yeah.
than than necessary, but we needed it in order to find that relative transition off of
Mhm.
cigarettes. But like Steve said, he gets a 60 mil bottle of 12, and then he breaks it down and then he almost triples, quadruples his his e-liquid possibility. So one price, he's buying two different products, but I bet you if you broke that down by price, he saved a lot of money right there,
Saved a ton of money. Yeah.
because he's not straight up going out and buying a bunch more 3 ml bottles,
Yeah.
and then him having to empty his pockets even more and more and more. But that just is another example of how we understand the science of it.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to call it that, but we understand the mechanisms of it and how we can manipulate it to where it's not what it says on the tin. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I mean, there are options out there, and I think that these are some of the things that go way over these anti-vape groups, this legislators, governors, senators, all these political figureheads, who really, I think the reason why so much stuff just kind of skims right by them is because they don't invest the time to really kind of understand what the entire industry is about and exactly how many variations are out there and the differences in everyone's style and their need in order to keep them away from cigarettes. They play ignorant to that. Anyway, carrying on. So, but while aspects of this trend are positive, it could and should be bigger and better, turning into the kind of sustained collapse in sales that doesn't depend on economic hardship. Millions of people, often on low incomes, continue to smoke because U.S. public health authorities give them no confidence in harm reduction alternatives. And among those people who do switch, large numbers are compelled to use products that aren't subject to safety standards and consumer protections. If they want flavored vapes, for example, as most adults who switch do, this is their only option. So I'm assuming they're addressing the black market, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you could call the Chinese vapes black market, but I mean, they get sold in stores as well.
Yeah.
The situation means FDA enforcement efforts against unregulated vapes are directly targeting major competitors to cigarettes, right? So even that market is taking money out of the pockets of the big tobacco companies and causing even further decreases to the revenue streams. Lower MSA payments means pissed off governors who can't pay off their notes. And aren't reeling in the money that they want their hands on. So all the more reason for them to oppose vaping. While the report says the true size of the unregulated market is hard to gauge due to limited visibility, 82% of surveyed retailers expect it to grow further, up from 57% 3 months prior. So even the retailers are seeing a shift in their businesses because they're losing business to the black market. Unregulated vapes that are coming in sideways and underhanded under the table. This could put people at risk. Adulteration of unregulated products is always a possibility, as the 2019 E-Valley outbreak demonstrated, first falsely attributed to nicotine vapes, but in fact caused by vitamin E acetate turning up in unregulated THC vaping products. Well, and that's the thing that we caution, right? That's part of our fight. You try to wake these people up and go, we don't get it, bro. You're basically opening the door to the black market. You banning this, banning that, taking this away, taking that away, and you're taking it away from the safer channels and the alternative storefronts that we have to procure these particular items, which we know that's not where the kids get them in the first place. You're going to take it away, and then you're going to shut down the channel for adults to have to be safe, because not everybody has connections. Not everybody knows somebody. Not everybody is a DIYer. Not everybody understands that you can take a 60 mil 12 and cut it down to 3 milligram and extend your usage. I mean, you have older people who, are immobile or don't have the time or the wherewithal to really want to understand the entire market. They just want their vape so that they can stay off of cigarettes. And those are the people that are going to be maybe forced to buy things sideways when they, honey, I need you to go see your friend John
in his garage.
I tell him I want my favorite vape. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, who knows where John's getting them from?
Yeah.
So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot, stacked right there. The money's not going into the pockets that truly want the money.
Yeah.
Um, the rise of unregulated vaping products is a direct consequence of the FDA's overly restrictive regulations, with an applications process that has failed to authorize a single non-tobacco flavored vape. The agency has effectively ceded control of most of the U.S. vapes market. It's a situation that means the FDA enforcement efforts against unregulated vapes and regulated and related legislation are directly targeting major competitors to cigarettes identified in the Goldman report. The report also reflects the surge in popularity of the modern oral nicotine products such as Zyn and On. Yeah, that got kind of quiet too.
Yeah.
That kind of spun up for a little bit there in the news
Yeah.
for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Why do you think it got quiet on that home front all of a sudden?
I don't know, man. I don't think it was. I don't think it's a big. I mean, I'm starting to see people starting to use that. I actually have a few friends that are using them now, more than vaping. So I don't know. I don't know.
Was it Jason? I saw somebody on X had a picture. They put a picture up on X. I don't know if I
Yeah, I
want to
seen
say,
it.
was
Yeah.
that Jason Vapes or no?
Yeah, I
It was,
think so.
yeah, and he had like a whole friggin' bag full of like pouches or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. He ordered some. I remember seeing that on X. Yeah, no, I have friends now that have put I put their vape devices away. I mean, they were buying disposables anyway,
Right.
but have gone to these pouches and these nicotine pouches, and I don't know, man. I think it's satisfying a certain need, but I think if you're one of those people that still need to have that you still need to see the smoke or the vapor, or they still smoke whatever you want, the vapor, and still need that hand to mouth movement or whatever. I think,
Right.
well, does it work? I don't know. I haven't
What do
seen
you
any more.
think? Do you think that people are truthfully switching to those because they just are looking for an alternative, or do you think it's more of an advantageous kind of thing, like you're at work or you're on a plane or
Uh,
you're somewhere where you can't vape? Um,
yeah. My friends that have switched over to them have switched over them because of the issue with finding e-liquid here in California. So a lot of them made the switch over. Uh, a lot of guys like them. Some of my buddies that they do fly a lot, they do travel, and they find it more easier to use the product. Just like this weekend, when we went to wine tasting, I had a few friends of mine that were using those instead of vaping because they didn't want to have to walk all the way off the winery property to have a friggin' vape or a cigarette. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it works for you, great, man. But I mean, I think I would in the early beginning. I'm sure you're the same way. I needed to see that vapor. I needed to have something I was bringing towards my mouth a lot. So yeah, no way I could have done just a pouch. No
yeah,
way.
I've considered it. So right there, James said that
Yeah,
Jason, Skip, and Michael all received sample packs
yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
And on Skip's behalf, I hope that they sent her a peanut butter flavored nicotine pouch.
Uh,
Because she'd be
yeah,
happy as a peanut in a jar of peanut butter if
yeah,
she could get her hands on that. I thought about it. I've heard some good recommendations and suggestions for it, especially like on longer flights.
yeah.
I could see that being something that could certainly, help kind of curb that kind of antsy thing.
That
When
edge.
you
Yeah,
when you yeah you get that little, you want to, you can't wait to get off the plane and find that spot so you can grab something.
yeah,
But I thought about using them for situations where I couldn't. Although I'm in your camp on this, and I think I can't say 100% for sure how I would be, but I
yeah,
just sort of feel like I would be missing something.
yeah, yeah.
I don't that didn't I didn't look too professional, but anyway, uh,
You're all right.
you
Yeah,
get what
yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah.
say.
I know.
You get
I
what,
know where you're going
yeah,
with
I had
it.
that imaginary shake weight there for a minute there, John.
Uh,
Um,
no, no, yeah, I think there's a good portion of it. I think this is a great product if you're been vaping for a few years and you've gotten yourself down to like 3 or 6, and you feel that you can make that transition into these things and use and not have to, inhale vapor and all this other nonsense, but actually just kind of, take this pouch and put it in your mouth and actually go throughout the whole day with it and not even anyone knowing, I
Right.
guess.
I guess I mean, like James said, he tried the nicotine toothpicks, and that didn't work
Oh, yeah.
for him. And I can understand that as well. Again, you're forfeiting the thing that has
Yeah.
sort of a bit of a familiar habit, right? A
Yeah.
familiar movement. Whatever that satisfying component happens to be, the hand to mouth
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I could see like the toothpicks or the pouches being good for, like, let's say you work in the food industry or something, and you're working longer shifts, 3 to 4 hours at a pop. You can't have that stuff around food in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might, help sort of break some of the monotony in situational circumstances.
Yeah.
But I just can't see myself going, you know what, I'm going to buy a bunch of Zen pouches and I'm going to put the disposables or the mods on the shelf,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to see how well I hold down with the Nick pouches. I just can't
Mm.
see myself being successful there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's just you got to look at where you're at in your journey and see if you're ready to make that decision. But hey, the nice thing about it is we can also, if this doesn't work, we can just kind of go back to our vaping and then just prepare yourself again when you think you're ready to make that transition.
Exactly.
We're not smoking 2 packs a day of cigarettes and going, okay, we're going to try to stop and then stop for a week because your kids are begging you to stop and you go a week, but something happens. You get a blowout on the freeway. Next thing you know, you're looking for that pack of cigarettes that you hid in the car from your kids, so you can have while the guy replaces your tire in your truck.
Exactly.
That was me.
But to Janine's point, I mean, again, right there's another perfect example of a
Yeah, yeah,
situational element where, like, you want something. But I'm just curious why something like the pouches just got spun out of control so
yeah,
quickly, like from out of nowhere. I mean, it started with what, Chuck Schumer and his little
yeah,
tirade about how he was going to, launch an attack on these nicotine pouches, and it got, messy there for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden it just sort of fell on it, and it just got quiet.
yeah.
There's Mr. Nicky Orlando in the house. How you doing,
Yeah,
Mr. Nico? Yeah. So I
yeah. It
just,
don't make any sense. It doesn't
yeah,
really. I mean,
I
do
just,
you think maybe they realize there's nothing they can say or do to fight against this a pouch? I mean,
well,
there's
I
no
mean,
vapor, there's no smoke, there's no secondhand. Maybe no, I guess you can't even really say there's a disposable issue. Getting rid of them, you just throw them in a garbage can.
no, but I mean, they're going to rest on their laurel, right? They're just
Yeah, yeah,
always going to go back to the same thing, and they're going to say, well, if these products are out there on the market and they have some
right,
element of flavor to them, that the kids are naturally going to
yeah,
be intrigued and want to try them, and we don't want to we don't want to addict a future generation.
yeah,
But I just sort of feel like, you're fighting a losing battle to
yeah,
begin with. You know what I mean? It's just, I wonder what backed them down off of that dog. Like
yeah.
what had them pull the dog back so that all of a sudden the pouches just weren't nearly as much of
Well, I do you think
a
maybe
stain.
who's investing in these pouches makes a difference to the government?
Well, you make a fair point there, Mr. Truncali. I mean, I think when you think about it, if they realize where their money's coming from,
Yeah,
I'm sure some big time lobbyists walked right into Schumer's office and said, "Listen, dude,
yeah,
you
yeah,
need to just, STFU.
yeah. Shut the fuck
Yeah,
up.
you're not helping the situation at all. This is what's putting money. We're lining. Well, let's line your pockets a little bit
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Here's some hush money. Be quiet."
yeah,
And then just, let the money roll in, because you guys aren't selling as many cigarettes anymore these days.
yeah,
So you need something. Something's got to fill that vacuum. And if it's these nicotine pouches, which you don't put a nicotine pouch in your mouth and all of a sudden it's like those things at the mall, those nitrous
yeah, yeah.
frozen ice cream dot things, where, like, you're blowing dragon's breath and walking around. I would say probably 99.9% of the time, nobody even knows you have one in your between your cheek and gum
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
You're not exhaling any, there's no emissions coming
yeah,
out. So if you're
yeah,
somewhere in public, it's not bothering anybody.
yeah.
The only person that is maybe
I mean,
theoretically being
Do you feel that even kids would be interested? I don't. That's the thing. It's not a sexy product to the kids, even though there's nicotine involved, it's it's a pouch. They can hide a lot easier than a vape pen. I don't think it's a sexy product to them. I hate using the word sexy product, but it's not. There's no appeal to them, even with flavors added to them. I don't see kids running to the store or trying to find this product, even in the black market. I think they would still rather find the vape pen than the vape pouch or the pouch. I don't care if they had every flavor under the sun. I don't think there still would always be a small percentage of kids that will try the product, but I don't think it would have the push that the vape device did with the teenager. Yeah.
Right. Well, I agree with you in that regard, because I still, a very huge part of me feels like the allure with vaping for kids is not just the pure enjoyment of a flavor. I don't think it's where a kid is sitting down and technically saying, well, I'm a flavor chaser, or I'm a cloud chaser. I don't think those are the conversations that they have. I think what the kids are looking for is the rush, the nicotine rush, the thing that they can get the biggest buzz off of, as demonstrated in video after video, the crazy things with the 5-6 joules all jammed in the styrofoam cups. I think the kids would inherently be more inclined to, or someone could judge the situation and say kids would be more inclined to want this particular product because they found out that the kids have found a way to bastardize it.
Yeah, and I think too,
take it to another level.
Yeah, but I think you're right there. But I think there's a little other thing that you needed to add to that. I think it's the ritual part of it, because it's the smoking part. Where do all smokers go? We all hang out. We don't even know each other. You could be at a ball game smoking a cigarette in the smoking area. You just became best friends with the guy next to you. You know what I mean? I think there's that ritual with vaping as well that I think is alluring to the kids too. It's like, here we are hanging out at the park. We're vaping. We're all, I think that has a big part of it too. I think you're right with the other part of it, but I think just the ritual part of it, being around each other, vaping around each other, smoking around each other, drinking around each other.
Well, that's
makes them
rebellion,
feel like an adult.
But we all
makes you feel like an adult. Yeah.
Why do you think a lot of us, we didn't sit there and go and drool every time we walked into a convenience store because we kept seeing cigarettes on the other side of the counter? Matter of fact, I would think a larger majority of us, our parents raised us to say, hey, you shouldn't smoke. It's really bad for you. Like it can kill you. And so you march around for the preteen years of your life going, I'm never going to smoke. I'm never going to smoke. No. And then what happens? Then the teen angst hits and your rebellion hits, and mom and dad are dumb and stupid, and you know more than they do. And your life is so stressful, and the woe is me. I mean, we see it repeat itself generation after generation after generation. Whatever
that's the word I was trying to get to, is a social thing. It is a big social thing. Yeah.
Right. And ultimately in the end though, I mean, it was about our rebellion. It's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just I'm going to try this because, this is me putting the middle finger up to everybody, who's trying to keep me down. My parents are trying
it's keeping me down.
My parents are trying to keep me in check. I'm 16, damn it. I can think for myself, you know more than the rest of the world. And so rebellion, I think absolutely is a predecessor to kids picking up habits, and kids always want to be kids. They want to do, sneaky shit and be scandalous and get their hands on something they're not supposed to have, because, there's that's the allure in general. I don't think it has anything to do with flavors per se. I think flavors are a bonus. I mean, if you be like, hey, I'm going to break the law and it's going to taste good too.
That's good.
But kids drink alcohol. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember when I was a kid, like my kids would break out like a bottle of Jim Beam or Wild Turkey or something like that, and they're like, come on, we're doing whiskey shots, and I took a swig of that bottle. I'm like, well, oh my God, it's like the worst tasting shit in the world. But what was I really ultimately wanting to do? I wanted to get effed up like my friends and have a buzz and act stupid and walk around at 2 a.m. and go over to girls' houses that we knew at high school and see if we couldn't wake them up, and just dumb stuff. We did dumb stuff, and I think that vaping is just no different
Yeah.
than any of that other stuff. But I ultimately think that when was said before, that the kids are just looking to get domed. They want to rush, they want to buzz,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
want something, and you can't do that with the pouches. The pouches don't. Yeah, boofing Nick pouches. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that is a major draw, and and the same would apply for NRTs and
Yeah.
nicotine
Yeah.
gums and stuff. You're
Yeah.
just not going to get the rush. But I don't know if you'll remember, and I'll tell you guys too. And I think you might be able to still find the video. I think I can't remember if I found it through Twitter when it was Twitter, or if I just stumbled across it. But it was some kids from the UK. I believe they were kids from the UK. They weren't from America, and they had nicotine pills.
Oh.
And they were taking the nicotine pills, and they were either crushing them up or doing something with them, and they were putting them into like fruit punch drinks and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but that's my point, right? The
Yeah.
point is that you're not going to put a nicotine pill in your mouth and it tastes good. What tasted good? The fruit punch. The
Yeah.
fruit punch is what tasted good, and they put like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these stupid nicotine pills
Yeah.
in their fruit drink because they wanted to catch a buzz.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think Zen doesn't tick the boxes. These Nick pouches don't tick the boxes because the kids can't find a way to bastardize it to the point where it gets them what they're looking for.
And I think it to them too, I think it comes off as more of an older person's fucking habit too, which I think, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, because who wants to do what the boomers do?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Who wants to be like Gen X? Yeah, we're just a bunch of old fuddy-duddies who don't know any better.
Because I mean, I did both, but I chose smoking over chewing tobacco and just having something in my mouth. So but it wasn't sexy. It wasn't cool. It's just like you can't kiss anybody with a mouthful of chew.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing how that. I hope they leave it alone because I know it's helping a lot of my friends. I know a lot of my friends where it is really helping them, and they have not gone back to smoking cigarettes. And they're, like I said, they're executives. Most of them, they're on flights a lot of time. They're flying around for their companies. They do purchasing. So they're always flying around. So it was really difficult anyway for them with the vape device before. But now that they have those pouches, they're having less problems, especially on flights.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to miss a couple late hellos there. I did see Michelle Elliott jump in. Good to see you, Michelle. How are you? Nick O, of course. We did say hi to the Nick Alligator in my pool, Orlando. There's his term of endearment.
Yeah.
Aaron Dwyer, great to see you. I have a question for you, Aaron Dwyer. Aaron Dwyer, is there any remote chance you are related to Gary Dwyer from Northern Virginia? That's probably a no. There's probably a million. There's probably a million Dwyers on this planet, but it would be a small world after all if you said, "Yeah, that's my uncle. That's my brother. That's my my dad's. That's my cousin." Anyway,
my cousin. That's my mother's cousin from her. No.
Anyway, I've only known one person in my lifetime named Dwyer, and that was Gary Dwyer. He was a guy that I worked with for a lot of years back in Northern Virginia. So I hadn't seen that name in quite some time. All right, on with the article. Retailers and wholesalers report robust growth in this category, an 18% increase. So cigarettes fell by 5.1% as of April, but now Zen has seen a 18% increase year on year.
Yeah.
So 18, but they don't tell you what year they started measuring that. Like vapes, these pouches offer a much less harmful alternative to cigarettes, and their popularity illustrates that people who smoke are willing to switch if given appealing options. All of this should demonstrate to public health that working with market forces here, responding to what people who use nicotine actually want rather than imposing regulations that suppress their preferences is a path to significant progress. Okay, yeah, no, just be curious to know if that was in your family tree there. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure somewhere in some distant branch of the tree, everyone's got some ties. I mean,
somebody.
the name gets around. But that's kind of another point that we make, John, is that
Yeah.
we're talking about adults here. Like kids are just going to go for whatever gets them
Yep.
off. But when you have adults who are out there and you're going, look, I want to quit. I want to quit smoking so bad, but I
Yeah.
can't. I'm
Yeah.
struggling. It's the hardest thing. I've tried this, it didn't work. I tried that, it didn't work. And then you've got all these other alternatives that are on the table that they could make a conscious decision to give it a
Yeah.
shot.
Yeah.
And I think with vaping, with the right shop, the right people around you, people that understand it or know something about it, could certainly improve that success rate tremendously, exponentially even. But you're going to take away the alternatives that adults who are doing their research, who are reading into this stuff, and we read the good and the bad,
Right.
but you're taking away that choice. I just think that that's just a very unfortunate side. All right, Janine, tight dress, boiling the pasta Timmins. I don't
bring
know.
the wine. I'll bring the wine, Janine.
I don't know. 1 week you might be Janine pasta boiler Timmins, and then 1 week you might be Janine tight dress Timmins. Have a great night.
Are we talking red sauce or white sauce? I need to know. So
no,
I
you got
make
the
sure.
Italian involved now. So
Yeah, I got to make sure if I bring red wine or white wine. So let me know what's the sauce you're going with. And it's not called gravy, sauce.
It's sauce. It's in there. The Barclays, a State of Global Tobacco report published 4 days earlier on April 18th, further strengthens this argument. It shows how in the current regulatory climate, cigarettes remain extraordinarily profitable. Manufacturers' operating margins stand at between 38 and 56%, far in excess of other regulated staple goods. Wow, that's pretty tremendous. Cigarettes remain extraordinarily between 38 and 56% profit on a pack of cigarettes. No wonder they don't want them gone. The threat that disruptive technologies pose to these profits is being artificially deflated when manufacturers of safer nicotine products face onerous. I haven't seen that word in a while. Onerous.
Owner.
Every time I see that word onerous, it makes me think of the former singer of the band Guar.
Oh God, you got me there.
Well, no, his the singer was, I believe his character name was Odorous Urungus. If Grim Green was on the show right now, he would be able to confirm that for me. But yeah, every time I see the word onerous, and then every time you say persimmon, I think of I think of the word is it parsimony?
Parsimony.
So let me read that again. The threat that disruptive technologies pose to these profits is being artificially deflated when manufacturers of safer nicotine products face onerous and often insurmountable regulatory hurdles. Under the current system, it is easier for new cigarettes to gain FDA authorization than new vapes. Cigarettes remain a highly lucrative venture for tobacco companies, thanks in part to the agency. Can someone please tell me, in a cigarette PMTA, where the net health benefit is to the public?
The small print on the last page.
Yeah, where's that clause? Like when do cigarettes get to go in for the rigorous testing with mice?
Yeah.
And then and get scrutinized like vaping does. So why do vapes have to face a certain set of criteria that is judgmental?
An unfair standard, but the cigarettes doesn't have to meet that standard at all whatsoever.
Exactly. I just don't quite get it.
Because our founding fathers made sure of it, Timmy.
Those are unalienable rights?
Yes.
See, there you go. Nick knows. It was Odorous Urungus. Yes. R.I.P. Odorous. Yes. He was the guy that had the big, I think Odorous didn't have the helmet with the night guy. Odorous was a little bit more he had kind of like an ogre kind of look to him. He was kind of I don't know. Go watch a Guar video, John, after the show.
I will. I will.
Got to go back in history. Look back at Guar in early 2000s.
Okay.
Late 90s, early 2000s. cigarettes remain a highly lucrative venture for tobacco companies, thanks in part to the agency. Something is very wrong with this picture, you think?
Yeah.
It's time to embrace a smarter approach, one that harnesses nicotine consumers' choices, which involves simply telling them the truth about relative risks to hasten a smoke-free future. And and that's the other big piece of this that I don't seem to understand, is that it just does not appear to me that the government at large, and this is with the exceptions that are out there, you've got a few that argue on the side of vaping, that are aware of of benefits that it presents, but it just does not seem to me that they give a rat's ass about wanting to keep people healthy. Like,
Yeah.
if you can't get cigarettes off the market, but you could offer people a pathway to say, hey, look, if you want to make this personal choice to switch to this thing,
Yeah.
then by all means do it, because we're not going to be spending as much money on you in the health system.
Mm.
You're not going to be incapacitated. You don't become a financial burden to the state.
Yeah.
So I don't get that. They just completely just ignore that altogether. The FDA urgently needs to change course. It should be guided by both science and consumer preferences in creating a landscape where people who smoke have good access to a wider range of much less harmful options. That approach would be incentivize the industry to innovate and develop better reduced risk products more rapidly, undermining the dominance of cigarettes. And I think that's been happening.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen the progression of vaping over the years from where we came to where we are now,
Hell yeah.
and the delivery mechanisms that are available, the variety of delivery mechanisms that
Yep.
are available, from everything from a classic Sig-alike looking thing all the way to whatever
Yeah.
lightsaber you want to own.
Yeah. From 1.5 milliliters all the way to your big boy that you have at your house. A whole
Exactly.
bottle.
Sorry, my dog's running around acting silly.
It's a-
That approach would incentivize the industry to innovate and develop better reduced risk products more rapidly, undermining the dominance of cigarettes. Some tobacco companies have already moved in this direction. Philip Morris International recently stated that 39% of its revenues now come from smokeless products, a landscape where these products weren't placed at a regulatory and messaging disadvantage compared to cigarettes would force companies to move further and faster. And look, I don't
Right.
want our preferred products to become part of big tobacco's hemisphere.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be related to them in any way, shape, or form. I just don't see why the cigarette companies couldn't find a way to turn this to where vaping products end up becoming, as profitable or more profitable for them, um,
Yeah.
in reasonable terms.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just doesn't.
They made their money, and they've used their money wisely to buy other companies outside of tobacco. Shut it down, boys. Shut it down and go make your money with your fast food restaurants, your fucking grocery stores. I mean, that money, big tobacco money. If you look around and look at the web of fucking companies that they own, that puts food on our tables, roofs over our heads, it's insane
Yep.
what they have their money into.
Yep. No, it just it looks like for them there could be an opportunity out there, and they just don't really
Yeah.
seem to want to fully grasp it.
Yeah.
And that's not trying to lift them up in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying
Yeah.
you already see what's happening in front of your eyes. It just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
U.S. Public Health Authority strategy of demonization and prohibition by stealth towards products that can save lives has protected the cigarette trade and failed people who smoke. It's time to embrace a smarter approach, one that harnesses nicotine consumers' choices, which involves simply telling them the truth about relative risks in order to hasten a smoke-free future. Instead of swimming against the current, the FDA must adapt its regulatory systems to propel us towards a healthier society. I believe that's the end. But I agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that. I think that they need to fall back on their messaging from years prior when they were. I mean, because they openly admit that they openly admit that they knew that vaping was safer than smoking. That they acknowledge it. Um, unfortunately, they got to ride that wave of the youth epidemic or the interest that existed
Yeah.
for a period of
Yeah.
time. That
Yeah.
interest is just not there. I mean, I think all of us can probably look around, out into the public sphere and see kids still vaping. I mean, there'll always be kids
Yeah.
doing shit they shouldn't be doing, but we already know that the numbers have dramatically dropped.
Yeah.
And a large portion of those numbers weren't even made up of kids who were vaping daily anyway.
Yeah.
These were kids that tried it once in the last 30 days or did it every now and again at a party when they were hanging out with their friends and they were passing, a jewel around or something like that.
Yeah.
These were not kids that were, in general terms, addicted to vaping. They were just being kids.
Yeah. Well, I want to get your opinion and everybody else's opinion out there in chat too. In the early days when Juul was making their money, they were out there. They had about 70% of the market. They were just coasting along, and then all of a sudden this sale comes up where okay, granted, I mean, if I am a company like Juul or any other company, and I'm offered billions of dollars, you better believe I'm selling my company. Uh, but when you look at that from the outside of our industry and our community, when you see a company like Juul get bought by Big Tobacco, what are your initial thoughts in your head when you see that process going through? And I want you to think of it outside of our box, outside of a vapor smoker. You're not a smoker, you're not a vapor, you're not a chewer, you're just the general public person out there. When you see this deal go down, what is your first initial thoughts?
I'm sorry. Can you? What
Yeah,
was the deal?
when Juul sold to Big Tobacco, and I right now I can't get the name out of my head. uh,
Altria.
Altria, you as a person outside of the community in the industry, a non-smoker, you're just out there, you don't care if you smoke or you don't smoke, but when you see a deal like this going down, what is your initial thoughts when you see Big Tobacco coming in buying this vaping company?
Um. Well, I certainly see it as they looked at it as an opportunistic venture. I think that they. I think there's a lot of professionals out there, a lot of smart businessmen out there that can take a look at something and tell pretty quickly whether or not. I mean, watch the show Shark Tank every now and
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smart people that are going, "Hey, this is going to be huge," and we already offer a product that is similar in terms of its mechanism. It's outside of the 4,000 chemicals that we're not cramming into a jewel. It's giving that user something like a cigarette. So we're experts in that field already. We know how to market that stuff. We know how to sell that stuff, and we can make hand over fist with this product because we can get it into every chain store, every convenience store, every gas station. If we can just market it the right way, aggressively as hell, yeah, moment of opportunity, a way to bankroll and make a shitload of money before they get out and become part of the board.
Hmm. Well, you're thinking like an investor. I wanted you to think of it as just a regular customer out there, Joe Blow, no cares in the world. What are your initial thoughts when you see a company, Big Tobacco, come in and buy a company that has been thought to be a company that is safer for you, better for you, and healthier for you? And now you have Big Tobacco come in. You're just a regular guy out there. You see this sale going down. You see that number, which is an astronomical number for a company that was only at best 5 years old. What are your initial thoughts then? Not as an investor. As an investor, I would have jumped fucking right. I would have pulled out $50,000, $60,000. I would have dumped it. I would have lost my ass, but I would have, yeah. As an
Well,
investor, I would have jumped on board.
I think if I have to look at the situation objectively, and I'm just seeing somebody come in and do like seeing Altria come in and put their their eggs in that basket. I think it would have to do with my sentiment about big tobacco in general overall. Now, are you saying take that experience and compare it to the experience that I had? Because Juul wasn't around when you and I got started, bud.
No, no,
Juul
no,
was something else.
no.
Then absolutely, I would go look at those conniving assholes.
Yeah,
They're trying to cut the vaping market, our vaping market, the vaping market that's been successful and is continuing to grow. They're trying to take what we want away from us. So I
yeah,
would have, I would, and just like we had for all that time, is we had some significant ire towards big tobacco for this, because I think one of our fears was is that they're going to come in and they're going to get the jewels, and then they're going to try
yeah,
to maneuver in, and they're going to start picking off all these other companies who can see,
yeah,
bottom lines, and so, but we didn't. We felt proud. We were like, we have this thing that's not big tobacco, that is, we know is safer, better, overall a much better option for people that's out there. And we just didn't want our names to get run through the mud because the dirty bastard down the street decided that they wanted to get involved.
yeah.
Is that how you wanted me to look at it, John?
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, to me, no matter if you're in this industry or not in this industry, everybody's got a cancer story. Everybody in every family has a smoker in their family, and most people that are non-smokers that do have those stories to in their families when it came to cancer and people dying from smoking. I think seeing the name Big Tobacco and the lies that have been told by these companies over the last 100 years, I think outside people, and I think this is what the anti-vaping groups took advantage of, is seeing that scenario. Here you go. This is what we were talking about. Here's Big Tobacco coming in and taking over the vaping industry, and then tying it all in together and using it as, hold on, I got a call, as they've been hidden and behind the scenes since the beginning, which is, we all know, is a bunch of fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
I think it was I don't blame those guys. Hey, it's capitalism, man. If I mean, I'm not going to say no. If if you watch the story on Netflix and see what they went through and how hard it was to put this thing together. If you get offered, what is it, $9 billion, dude, you're taking the nine. I don't care what you're thinking. You're taking the $9 billion and you're walking the hell away. Yeah.
Well, Michelle, I'll agree with you there. Should I say that the moment we ever heard any of that stuff that we really kind of gave a rat's ass, I think the sour taste in our mouths grew over time when we realized that there was some of the nefarious stuff that had gone on, and all the eyes got put onto them, because what happened in the end really, and still is sort of prevalent today, is that we might as well all be part of Juul. We might as well all be, some subsidiary part of a massive umbrella that is Altria or Juul, because that's really what the vast majority of the ants know. They don't really know any different. They know about this one product, and they don't even understand the other pieces and parts, and the parts that aren't big tobacco, but they just see it all as one big melting pot. So you're right. I probably didn't care in the beginning, but the more it became ended up being under the microscope.
Yeah. Hey,
sure.
Timmy, I got to cut the show short. I just been called into work. So, and I said yes by accident because I was trying to swipe it and I clicked yes. So now I'm kind of obligated. So I apologize, everybody out there, but yeah, I have been called in to go to work. It's a schedule issue, whatever. So sorry. I can't believe I did that. It's a stupid app. I'm not used to using an app for punching in and punching out, asking for vacation days, or asking for time off. So I get this message, I'm looking at it and I go, yeah, sure, click, and then I read it and I'm like, son of a bitch.
I think this opens up a big question for the rest of us, John, and you guys in the chat. We'll let him go in here in a minute, but we just want to know how his dating career is going on Tinder, because I bet you he swiped the wrong way a bunch of times by
Yeah,
accident. Stupid app.
No Tinder. I don't use any of that shit. I don't. I meet women by walking up to them in the supermarket and asking them if I can squeeze their melons. No, I'm kidding.
You're so bad.
You have a lovely bunch of coconuts. Hey, tomorrow joining me on In the Vapor is the one and only Phil Pissardo. He will be joining me. We get to know Philip outside of the vaping industry and community, which is not easy because he shares so much, Tim. He's all about his life. Everything is out there.
Yes.
Phil. So hopefully I have some really fun questions for Phil, a little different than the ones I normally asked. So it should be fun. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 1:00 right here on this channel. And again, Nick says fired. Nick, it's the damn apps. All right. Yeah, I'm not used to the apps. Unfortunately, I clicked it. It's only 10 minutes, guys. Relax. It's 10 minutes. Timmy, look into the camera and say goodbye. Well, wait, let me make sure I'm ready. Fix your hair. Fix your hair. Fix your hair. All right, here we go. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.